Hello and welcome to the DME podcast, a brand new podcast brought to you by DME, the podcast booking platform. Whether you're a podcaster or an aspiring guest, the DME app is a perfect platform for you to get booked and manage your podcast bookings. I'm your host, Sukhair, the founder of DME, and on this podcast we'll be discussing the latest news and views in tech, the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, and even dipping our toes into the adrenaline-fueled world of mixed martial arts. On this week's podcast, we're speaking with Timandra Harkness. Timandra is a comedian turned writer and journalist who has written extensively on the use of big data in her book, Big Data, Does Size Really Matter?, and explores the impacts of data on society in her latest book, Technology Isn't the Problem. This was an informative conversation with a smart and insightful guest. I really hope you enjoy it. Timandra Harkness, welcome to the DME podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you doing this. You're probably one of our first guests, but like the first.
That is exciting.
I know.
Do I get a badge?
We get an award. We'll send one through the post. Just don't wait for us. You might have to pay for packaging, I'm afraid. Okay, so your bio describes you as a writer, presenter, and lapsed comedian. So that's an interesting phrase, but we'll come back to that one at the end. So just a little bit about your background. I mean, you're an author and you're kind of concentrate on the tech world. What kind of drove in your past career, kind of took you down that route?
It was a kind of unusual route because I know a lot of people that started off in sciences or maths or data and then went into communication. Mm-hmm. But I slightly went the other way. I was actually doing stand-up comedy and then was getting a bit bored with the same old subjects and met a friend of mine who was also a stand-up comedian at a meeting at the Royal Society, where I discovered she was an actual scientist. And so we decided we'd do some comedy about science. And then about the same time, maybe a bit later, I started just remembering really how much I'd enjoyed maths at school and just started studying maths again for fun. So I finished up doing a whole degree in the Open University. Oh, wow. And so that kind of fed into me doing a lot of stuff about science and tech and mathematics and how it relates to society. So I'm still not, I scraped 2-2 with the Open University, so I'm still not the world's greatest statistician, but I do understand the basic principles of it. But what I'm really interested in is where kind of technology and society intersect and how society shapes technology and technology shapes society, I suppose.
Oh, that's really interesting. So when did you kind of first come to what stage of your life were you kind of at that? Were you doing comedy for the last 15, 20 years and the last 10 years come, let me just
I've been this was ages ago. So this was the end of the last century. And I was doing the comedy then and I probably did it for maybe 5-6 years. I was just about making a living from it.
Right.
And then so I was kind of bored with doing the same subject matter as everybody. It was a bit, drink, drugs, difference between men and women, dogs and cats. And of course, ironically, as I realised that much later on, I ended up doing shows about those topics, but from a scientific point of view.
Oh, no, okay.
Which is kind of ironic. But just you began to think, actually, there's a whole lot of more interesting ways to look at the world. Mm-hmm. And if I bring those into the comedy, then the comedy just becomes more interesting.
Yeah.
But then I was also doing journalism and looking at things a bit more seriously that way. And the two things kind of went on in parallel.
Okay, so how did you kind of use the technology to inform your journalism and your writing?
I think it was that, actually I can remember what it was. There was a period about 15 years ago now, maybe, in the early 21st century. Honestly, I feel really ancient now. When suddenly all the newspapers got really interested in statistics, and there were statistics and graphs everywhere, and infographics, and like the Guardian and these very colourful pie charts and everything. And everyone I knew got really excited about statistics. And this was when I was starting to study maths. I thought, well, this is weird because I like maths, right? So I like this stuff, but I know for a fact that most of you people hate maths. And if I try and talk to you about maths, your eyes glaze over. So why are you suddenly so excited about statistics? I thought there's obviously something going on here. Mm-hmm. where society is looking for something, like they're looking for answers, looking for something that looks very definite. They're looking for a way to predict an unpredictable future. And if you give it 2 decimal points, 2 numbers after the decimal point, then somehow it's more convincing.
Right.
And then that started to kind of fold over into people talking about data. And all of a sudden we're interested in data. And I thought, well, I'm really interested in this from a nerdy point of view. I get really excited about the way you can find relationships between numbers and use that to understand something new.
Yeah.
But again, I know that most of you guys out there, if I actually tried to talk maths to you, would run a mile. So is this just some kind of weird society fetishizing data and numbers? Or is there something actually great, new and exciting about how we can learn from numbers? And that was when I really started to dig in seriously.
So is that the genesis of big data? Does size matter?
It is, yes, well spotted. That was exactly it. Yeah. So I started digging into it and then thinking, well, I think it's a bit of both. I think there is a kind of social fetishization of data, as if, and somebody described it to me as an oracle. Like people think big data is an oracle. It's going to answer all the big questions.
There we go. There's must be kicking in, but we'll come back to that.
And then, but then at the same time, actually, there are a lot of really new and exciting things you can do with it. And the way that computers can process data, and now stuff that we talk about as artificial intelligence, and although how intelligent it is a
question.
Exactly. But certainly in terms of kind of automated processing and just the capacity to process data on a scale that the human mind can't get hold of, genuinely does have a lot of really exciting opportunities with it. So I think both things are happening.
Okay. So what was kind of some of the themes that you kind of got out of the research into the big data book?
Well, some of it was about what you can do with it and what the potential is. And I got a backronym, which is any self-respecting author knows you need to kind of be able to pin down your whole thesis into something very concise. So
I've never heard that word.
Okay. Well, in that case, I tell you what, the only thing anyone's going to remember from this podcast episode is what a backronym is. Because I give talks, and it's like that's the only thing people take away. Backronym is where you want an acronym, and you manage to reverse engineer it so that it's the word that you wanted to end up with. So I managed to basically turn data into an acronym for diverse or different or dimensions, and that all those things kind of mean the same thing in terms of data, that you bring together different data sets from different sources and you combine them and then ask a new question.
Okay.
That the people who collected the data originally weren't asking.
Right.
So that I think is genuinely exciting. And my favourite definition of that was a brain scientist called Professor Paul Matthews. And when I interviewed him for the book, I said, "Oh, you must be very excited about all the data you get in brain scans, huge data, masses of data." And he said, "Well, that's right." He said, "But that's just large data. What I'm really excited about is when you take those brain scans and you combine it with different sources." So in his case, it was patients' medical records, as well as their brain scans, and postcodes where the patients had lived, and the weather records from the postcodes where they had lived. And he put them all together, and he wanted to ask a new question, which was, is there a relationship between the hours of sunshine the patients had and the progression of their multiple sclerosis? Because that was what he was studying.
Oh, wow.
And it seems from the research which I've looked at since that there probably is, actually. And that was how he was doing. So he said that's, for him, when you get different data sources and put them together and ask a new question, that for him is big data. So I just totally nicked that definition. Anyway, so that's D. Cool. So the D is different or diverse or dimensions, if you want to be technical. The A is I can't remember now. I hope you can edit this bit out. I can't remember my back on it. There's dimension, automatic. That's right, automatic. It's because we do so many things now, so computers, data's automatically collected. T is for time, because it's collected in real time, you can project forward in time and make predictions. And then the last A is AI, because it's that ability of artificial, scare quotes, intelligence that enables us to get meaning from it.
Yeah, so I think the AI bit, another conversation, all on its own, makes the intelligence, is it just the processing speed of the data as opposed to the actual intelligence is generating, because maybe picking old school computing, you get to the same answer if you just had enough time.
Big enough computing.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. The thing that I think in relation to data, I think the thing that AI is really good at is pattern spotting, and that it can do that on a scale that humans can't, because it can ingest more data and more dimensions.
Yes.
And that's what I think it is really good at.
I think rudimentarily, that's the kind of basis of what it is. It's essentially, I've got such a large data set that I'm learning from. There's a large language learning models that are going, right, okay, I see the word the, the, right? Okay, what comes after the cat? Right, how intelligent this is.
Yeah.
Because it's just fine that after the, another 2 million times, proceeds cat. After the cat proceeds Saturn. Except, that's my rudimentary understanding. I'm not a techie or a developer, but
that is basically it. I mean, it's probabilistic. I fear the LLMs will put back the cause of AI because people think it can do things it can't. Because it's not intelligent. It doesn't know what the words mean in the sense that how they relate to anything in the real world. Yeah. It doesn't have a real world. All it has is a massive pile of language which it is ingested things that humans have produced. Yeah. And all it's saying is probabilistically across the whole of everything I've ever read, yes, this word is going to be followed by that word.
Yeah, so this is the interesting bit, because I said, it's generating this new stuff, but it's not creating anything new. It's just recreating what already exists. Yeah. So that's kind of the interesting bit. And I think messing around with some of these AI models at the moment, one of the flaws is if you're trying to get it to create some kind of graphical presentation of something, and say, oh great, it's done the nice little logo there or whatever it is, and you just say, can you just change the shape of the L a little bit, or just make the O a little bit smaller? Can't do it. It doesn't brand new picture. It doesn't understand the context of what it's produced.
Yes.
Because it doesn't exist anywhere else in itself, so it hasn't learned what it produced.
No, exactly.
So it's quite interesting. But I think they'll probably get around that, and they'll quickly go, right, okay, all the content that ChatGPT or DALL-E or any of these other platforms have produced, feed it back into the model and then learn from yourself again. So I'm guessing that's where it will go again.
No, I think it will improve. But it's another case of, I think in many, which I ended up thinking the same about big data. It's like, actually, it could do amazing things, but a lot of what people are trying to use it for now is not what you should be using it for more. But it could be doing some other really exciting stuff. And I think the LLMs are a bit the same, that what they can do, what they're really good at, I think is great, but trying to get it to produce original stuff or trying to use it as a reliable lookup source, it's just going to end in disaster, because it will give you, I hear about college libraries where students go in asking for help to find a book, and the book doesn't exist. The librarians go, well, where did you find this reference? And like, well, I asked ChatGPT, and it just invented a whole book, but plausible, because it was maybe they will name an author in the field and produce the title of a book that could have been written in the field.
Well, I just sit on the train down here, but ChatGPT basically said, write me a sonnet in the style of Shakespeare, and just gave it a couple of themes, or another sonnet, or sonnet like climate change a bit. It'll probably do a pretty good job of it, because it's got enough of a data set of what Elizabethan English sounded like and what Shakespeare's style was, that you can recreate it. I'm wondering whether you can throw that on a head.
Oh no!
English professor saying, "We found the."
Yeah, well, oddly, because we're sitting here at college, and I was talking to one of the philosophy professors, and he said, yes, last year they had a big problem with a lot of students using ChatGPT to produce undergraduate essays. And I said, well, how could you tell what they were? And he said, well, it was just obvious, because it was not written like that student would have written it.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you've got a first year students, the first time you've ever seen them, then how do you spot them? How they're But I think what will happen is, I think it will be a market pressure on the AI companies. Is they've got to put a watermark on their content somewhere, a digital watermark of some sort. They don't have to do it on the images, because obviously you can generate an image and it can be spread and go viral on the internet and kind of ruin people's reputations or cause monetary damage to people. But on the text outputs, I think they probably need to kind of embed some kind of watermark in there and say, right, now this is created by AI.
Well, the flip side might be that, in fact, universities change the way they assess students. And go, well, okay, well, we obviously need a way of assessing the student where we know it's how much has this student understood, rather than expecting to be able to judge that from a piece of work that they've produced in, I don't know.
My cynical mind immediately goes to, well, does that affect the business one? The businesses.
That's a whole other conversation.
It is indeed. Okay, so that was the big data book, and now you've got a new one coming out. Technology is not the problem. That's quite converse to what people are saying at the moment. Everyone's saying, look, technology is a massive problem, and it's all doom or gloom.
Well, yes, exactly. That's and that was kind of slightly what I was reacting against. So it started off. That I thought I was going to write much more of a follow-up. Mm-hmm. So big data does size matter was very much like, well, okay, here's a snapshot of when people talk about big data, what do they mean? What is it? How does it work? What are people using it for? What could people be using it for? Here's some of the pitfalls, privacy noise. And I thought, okay, well, I'm really interested in the way it's used to gather data on each of us and profile each of us and target us with things supposedly just for us. So I'd like to look into that more. So I started digging into that. And I became less interested in how that is done, clever as it is, and more interested in why it's done. Why is everything personalised now? Mm. And obviously part of the answer is, well, because we've got technology that can do it and increasingly can do it really easily. But that's not enough of an answer, really, I think. So I just started to zoom out and look at the society we live in and at us and what drives us as human beings. And think, well, in a way, it's the least surprising thing because, you've got the technology that's capable of automatically collecting the data, building a profile, chucking things at your profile. But we also live in a society where we're more and more obsessed with ourselves and how other people see us.
Yeah.
And with our identities, and we're being recognised for the person we feel ourselves to be. And then when you think about that, you think, okay, and you've got technology that can basically automate to that process of recognising you and reflecting your identity back to you. Why wouldn't that be the technology that starts to take over everything in society? Because it's feeding into our current cultural obsession with ourselves. So that's why the book is called Technology is Not the Problem, because it's not that it's like, no, everything's sweetness and light. It's like, well, this is problematic. Sometimes it isn't. I'm a big fan of some of it. It's not that there's not a problem. It's that, unfortunately, we can't just blame the technology and go, I'd love to have control of my life, but the seductive algorithms have control of me. It's like, no, I'm sorry. The problem is us.
Yeah.
The problem is our obsession with ourselves. And as long as we keep trying to feed that need for recognition, then the technology is just going to step up and go, well, I can automate that for you.
Exactly, yeah. We'll find you a solution to a problem you didn't know existed. That's, because I see the lens of technology through my children. 14-year-old daughter. They're constantly taking selfies, and I don't think they ever take a selfie without a filter. So, what image are you trying to protect, and what are you trying to see back? Because it's not really you. So it's not you.
No, but except that the more our social lives happen through technology and social media, the harder it becomes to say that's not the real you. You're the real you. Because if you think, certainly, I think teenagers now, increasingly more, all of us,
it's adults.
We relate to each other as much through social media as face to face. I think you and I first got to know each other on Twitter, or X as it now is. Exactly. I have a number of friends that I made through social media, and for teenagers more so. So who are we to say that, like, your physical daughter sitting in the kitchen with you is more real than the person she's projecting through social media to her friends and her peer group? Because come on, think back to when we were teenagers, right? And you experiment with like your hairstyle, and maybe it's like you changed your name, that your friends called you something cooler, and you wore different outfits, and you did kind of reinvent yourself for your peer group.
You'd have to wait till you walk through the school gates for the feedback of the game, whether this is a good idea or not.
Yes, exactly. Whereas on social media, you could do this continuously, little tweets, like, oh, did people like this? No, okay, well, maybe I'll go the other way.
Yeah. So, you can see it's a problem, but then it probably dips into your kind of philosophy work like you're doing now. Is, all right, okay, what makes us human then? Are we changing ourselves? Are we searching for deeper meaning? We're looking for the gratification of others around us? Or do we need, whether that's some kind of spiritual grounding before you can be accommodating yourself? But then how do you develop that in this world? How do you avoid the technology? Do you go a complete Luddite and just kind of cut yourself off from the world and say, right, no TV, no mobile phones or anything like that? I think it's kind of got to be your own maturity and your own growing and learning experiences. Actually, no, like the technology is there for a specific reason, like, but also these are the people that I have in my life. These are the people, these are the things I like doing away from an electronic device.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think the answer is not to get rid of the technology. I mean, it would just be. I think I quote something in the book. There's a Chris Bale from Duke University who runs a thing called the Polarization Lab, and they were studying polarization of political views, especially in social media. And he had this. Basically, had this moment when Trump was elected because he was American. He was like, "How can this have happened? I don't know anyone who's going to vote Trump." And then he had the self-awareness to go, "Okay, so this maybe is a problem with me and the way I relate to the world. It must be a filter bubble." So he went, and they went into research with actual humans interacting with each other on social media. So I shall break the mass of their filter bubble, and then they will come to understand each other. And it didn't happen. No. He found that people dug in because they were on social media to build their identities.
Yes.
And so he has this lovely quote. I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like, "If we got rid of all social media tomorrow, our lives would become much more inconvenient. But the problem would remain." And I'm saying something rather similar. I think that actually technology can be really good, really useful, and it can help us communicate with each other. We have to step back a bit and ourselves take responsibility for finding meaning in our lives that doesn't depend on constant reassurance that other people see us the way we want to be seen, and just be more outward focused. Like, instead of constantly looking at our own digital reflection, but never mind what I want to be seen as. What do I want the outside world to be like? What changes do I need to try and push for in the outside world that will make the world a better place?
Yeah.
And it's that ironic thing of, actually, it's when you're outwardly focused that you have more meaning in your life and you're happier and more fulfilled.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're constantly looking at yourself, well, I don't know, I've never met a person who was completely focused on themselves who was actually happy and fulfilled.
No, I don't think that however old you get, that's kind of the journey of life, isn't it? You never quite get there. You just start, no matter how would you try, and then you see on social media again, but you see 21-year-olds, guys in their early 20s, this is my perfect life. Is it really? You haven't lived me.
Yeah, you got years to go.
Yeah. So technology is not the problem. When's that due to be out?
That is out, Casey. I should be plugging this. I'm being very slack. It is published by HarperCollins on May the 23rd, 2024.
Awesome. Available in all good books.
Exactly, and there's probably some bad ones.
Anyway, you content them out.
And I will be doing the audiobook as well. So if you're the kind of person that likes to listen to things, you can get however many hours of me reading my own words aloud.
I love the lazy generation. I don't like books without pictures, I'm afraid.
It's no pictures. I think I've pushed, there'd be a photo of me in the back cover. That's
no
it.
No graphs.
Well, you'll have to wait for the audiobook.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can definitely download and listen to that whilst I'm cleaning or cooking or doing the lawn. Was it May? Yeah, the lawn time. I'll be taking care of that. So, final couple of questions. I know you're a big Liverpool fan, Timandra, and we've had the recent news of Jurgen Klopp leaving at the end of the season. We'll take a moment.
Lots of tears and wailing in the Harkness household.
So, a couple of final questions. Are we going to win the league?
Well, I mean, touching wood, it's looking like at the moment, isn't it? And there is suggestion that's like, we're going to do it for Jurgen.
Yeah.
But interestingly, related to the thing we were talking about is Liverpool is one of the more data-driven clubs.
It's
Premiership.
Yeah.
They have a whole team like using the data to work out what they should be doing next. And so a lot of people are saying they're going to use data to find Jurgen Klopp's replacement. I'm yet to track down somebody who can give me the inside skinny on this, but.
I'd be aware. Okay. I would think of the metrics that you'd use to do that.
Yeah.
Who's won something? Who's going lowest points per time? But trying to get my head around FSG's thinking process. Like, they would be thinking most bang for your buck.
Yes.
Which is what they had under the previous regime, Michael Edwards, and what they were purchasing and the players they purchased, because I don't think anyone's got a better hit rate and success rate than him.
I know.
Yeah. So on that, who do you think is going to replace him?
Okay, I don't know is the answer to that. I'm still looking to track down the data person at Liverpool.
You're going by
and buy them.
Loyalty of going, Xabi Alonso, former Red.
Well, yes, actually. Yeah. No, it's Yeah, if you said to me you can now have a free bet on anybody, I guess that would be Xabi Alonso. Because he's the most talked about. But can pick up a block. He lose.
I hope not, because we can share the same birthday. So.
Really?
That's what kind of photo Xabi Alonso's birthday I'm treated today. That's about it. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, Timandra. It's really appreciated.
No, it's been a pleasure.
Best of luck with the book, and we'll plug that as much as we can on the DME platform, and we'd love to have a follow-up conversation on all things data and AI in the future.
Yes, and good luck with the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you very much.